Yeah. I just wanna be like Jesus. I just wanna be like Jesus. I just wanna be like Jesus. I just wanna be like Him.
I just wanna be like Jesus. I just wanna be like Jesus.
I just wanna be like
I just wanna be like Jesus.
I just wanna be like
I just
Jesus.
wanna be
I just wanna be like
Jesus.
I just wanna be like
I just wanna be like.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Souls Right House podcast and book interview. Today, I have the blessing of having Mr. Gary Lindberg here today to share another book title with us, and it is called God's Existence. How are you doing today, Mr. Gary?
Sherry Levon, I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm all ready to talk to you, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me.
Yes, sir. Now we're going to jump right in and get started because we have some anxious people wanting to know about this book. So we first want you to tell us about yourself.
Well, Sherry Levon, I was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and lived in Minnesota for about 7 years before my parents decided to move to California. And we moved to Santa Maria, a small community about roughly halfway between Los Angeles and San Francisco. There I grew up, attended schools up through high school. Following high school, I moved on to the University of California, Berkeley, where I majored in U.S. history. After I completed my degree and graduated, I volunteered for the Peace Corps and served 2.5 years in the Ivory Coast, which is located in West Africa between Ghana and Liberia. And my job was to teach primary school children how to grow vegetables more effectively in a tropical climate.
Wow.
And following my Peace Corps service, I actually got drafted and decided to volunteer for the Navy instead. And so I volunteered for the Navy and served my 4 years and completed my military obligation. Following the Navy, I went on to San Francisco State University to earn my Master of Business Administration degree. And because I had majored in history and didn't have any business courses, I had to take some preliminary courses before I could actually enter the full graduate program. But upon completion of that, I majored, by the way, in personnel and management and personnel. And after I completed that, I started my 43-year career in human resources. And
wow.
Then when I was in November 2019, when I was about 76, I decided it was a good time to retire. And so I did retire to pursue personal interests. And as it turned out, personal interest has started off being writing a couple of books.
Wow. That is amazing. So what inspired you to write the book, God's Existence, Truth or Fiction? The Answer Revealed. I like that. Three part.
Yes, thank you. Well, there are three factors that kind of inspired me to write the book. First, as I was growing up, I had some thoughts that other people didn't seem to have. And for example, when I was about 12 or 13, I started thinking about how God created the Bible by inspiring people to write it and organize it. And then I had the thought, well, who created science? Well, the answer to that was very clear and very obvious to me. And that was that God created science because God created the universe and all of us in it. Well, then it struck me, well, if God created the Bible and God created science, they both must say the same thing. So that was my different take in writing the book. And a second factor that inspired me to write the book occurred when I was a sophomore in high school, and it was time for me to take biology. Well, when I took was about to take biology, I started talking to other students who had already taken it, and I was asking what was involved in the class and what were required in the class and that sort of thing. And the answer I got back was that one of the requirements was you had to dissect or cut up frogs over several weeks, and that didn't appeal to me. So I decided to take botany instead. Well, when I took botany, I learned a very important lesson. And that lesson was that all plant life is organized in 7 different categories of organization, starting with kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, uh, species as the lowest level and the most specific level. And that was rather interesting. Well, later in life, I found out that all animal life was also classified by the same 7 levels or categories of classification.
Right.
And that's, kingdom, phylum, down to the most specific species. And then it struck me, well, if all plant life and all animal life are so well organized, that cannot happen by accident. That cannot happen by random. It must have happened by design. If it happened by design, that must mean there was a creator, and what we like to call God.
Yes.
And the third factor that inspired me to write the book was that all my life, people have been saying there's no proof that God exists. There's no evidence, physical evidence that God exists. Well, I decided to take that challenge up myself and find out for myself what was right. So that's why I examined different sciences. And I examined botany, zoology, human anatomy, astronomy, mathematics, chemistry, and physics to find evidence. And those are the 3 factors that inspired me to write the book.
Oh, wow. See, you learn something every day, y'all. So those of y'all watching today, if you're scratching your head, you can go back and replay this at any time. Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
So tell us about your book, a little bit about your book that's out, God's Existence.
Okay, well, my book is a scientific study about the existence of God. And as I've indicated, I have a different take in that I say that the Bible and science say the same thing because they were both created by God. Well, I start off by explaining that the belief in gods has existed for centuries. We can go back to the Greeks, the Romans, the Vikings. They all believed in God. I didn't mention the Egyptians in my book, but there's another civilization that believed in gods. Well, then I take the Abraham Maslow hierarchy of needs theory to explain why people have a need and why today we have a need to believe in a superior being that's above all of us.
Right.
And so then I go through the different sciences that I just mentioned and how they offer evidence for the existence of God. And I propose my what I call a directed life theory, kind of a new theory. And I think you might be talking about that later. And then I've provided what I think is a unique conclusion to my book.
Well, see, when you say how do botany and zoology show God's existence, how does it show it?
Well, I think I've already indicated that. It shows, it indicates that all these different levels of categories, 7 different levels, demonstrate very clearly that's not an accident. That happened because it was created that way. And if there is a creator, that's God. And so I think that's the evidence right there.
So how does astronomy provide proof of God's existence? Because you sometimes hear people talk about astronomy and it's witchcraft and things of this nature. So how does astronomy provide proof of God's existence?
Well, when I visited my brother, who was about 16 years older than me, in Huntsville, Alabama, he took me to the Space Museum that was located near Marshall Space Center, where he worked. And when I was there, the guide there told me that there were billions of stars in our galaxy, just the Milky Way galaxy. And he said there are billions, not millions, billions of stars or galaxies in the entire universe. That's a lot of stars.
Wow.
Does that happen by accident? Does that happen by random? No. And the you look up in the sky, you see different constellations. They're very well organized. That's all created.
Yes.
So I think that demonstrates evidence that God created all of that.
That's amazing. And nobody really, it's almost like people really don't take the time. We know what we hear, but we don't do a lot of researching to really find out for ourselves.
Of course, that's right.
So, what is your new theory about God, all life, and all evolution?
Well, my new theory is that all life, plant, animal, human, is either directed or non-directed. It can't be half directed. It can't be 3/4 directed, 1/4 directed, because as soon as you start asking what's 1/4 directed, well, why isn't it all directed? And so it's got to be all one way or the other. And if it's non-directed, that means that humans could be born with 3 eyes instead of 2,
Wow.
or 4 arms instead of 2, or uh, any kind of combination. Animals, the same thing. And through the life of time of an animal or a human, we can grow an extra arm, or we can grow an extra leg, or maybe an extra ear. You don't know.
Too.
So, so if the but we see that consistently, humans are born with one head, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 arms, 2 legs. That's that's consistent.
Yes.
So that demonstrates very clearly that life is directed. It's not non-directed. If it were non-directed, you could plant corn and harvest potatoes, for example. So yeah, I mean, there's no restriction. So if there's no restriction, it can be anything, and it can grow anyway in anything. And different humans can grow differently. Some humans could have 3 arms. Some humans could have 1 arm.
Right.
You don't know.
That is powerful.
Well, that's what I thought.
Because you don't think of it like it. Like, it's more normality than there is abnormality. Even though there is some abnormality, but then it's something in the creation of what you did that made it abnormal. It wasn't the design.
That's exactly right.
I love it. So another question I have is, what lesson did you learn about the fear of some Christians about science?
Well, when I was writing the book, I hadn't thought of this. And as I wrote the book, then it really struck me that there are some Christians that fear science. And I couldn't understand that, because it didn't make sense to me, because I have had a lot of science in my background. So it seemed to me natural that science was truthful, as to the extent that our knowledge is.
Right.
Scientists make mistakes too. But anyway, it seems to me that Christians need to realize that scientists are human beings too. They make mistakes. They jump to conclusions. They make false assumptions. They even distort information that they have for their own pride and benefit. And so we have to understand that they are doing what they think might be work for them, but that doesn't make it true.
Right.
And because it doesn't make it true, we have to realize that in the Bible, in 1 John chapter 4, verse 1, it says, test the spirits. So you have to test the spirits to see if they're from God, and if they represent God. And if they do, then it may make sense to believe it. But if they don't, you have to watch out. And when I was growing up, I thought that testing the spirits meant, well, we got to watch out for false prophets. Well, if we watch out for false prophets, that's not the only thing we have to watch out for. We have to watch out for scientists or anybody says anything to us about anything. And we have to see if the person who's speaking to us is from God or not. Right. And if we test the spirits, as the Bible says, then we will be more guided to what is really the truth. And I think that Christians have got to realize that the Bible is a powerful document. Now, I don't claim that it's perfect, but I do think that even in Isaiah chapter 55, the Isaiah chapter 55, verses 8 and 9 says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. All the heavens are higher than the earth. So are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." So God is so much greater.
Yes.
And we have to understand that even if humans made mistakes in the Bible, that the Bible has, it's not a history book. And I don't think we should really necessarily feel that it doesn't explain everything.
Right.
It explains a brief outline of things. But the Bible is, I think, directing us to follow more righteous behavior. And that's what's the key about the Bible. And if we understand that, and people realize that scientists can't tell you what righteous behavior is, because that's not their field. That's not their expertise.
They're just writers.
Yeah, that's right.
And a good thing too about that is that in reference to learning and understanding who you are in Christ, the lessons in itself, when you have that discernment, when he says my ways are not your ways, well, when he says test the spirit, sometimes you have to, in testing the spirit, allows your discernment to grow. It isn't so much about the yes or the no or the wrong or the right or the up and the down, the left and right, but it's your discernment to be able to pick on something that's not of God, because someone can't be sent from God but then don't hear from God. That don't even make sense. So who was you hearing when you were sent? Because you don't listen. So how can it be God when you don't listen? So your discernment grows when you can be, when you're, and I feel, and as our walk grows, the discernment in our lives changes. And when he says test the spirits, it's not always the answer that you get that he's wanting you to test. It's your discernment he's needing you to grow up, because you can read right through people, and you don't want everybody touching and praying over you too. I've learned that as well. You don't want everybody laying hands on you and touching you. So that is really good. So this is really good for me. So what do you want readers to take away or learn from your book, God's Existence?
Well, I want people to take away three things, basically. First of all, that many sciences, like I've shown in my examples, by their complexity and intricacy, prove that God exists. Secondly, I want people to realize that all life forms, as I've said, plant, animal, and human, must be either directed or non-directed, and I think it's very clear that they're directed. And finally, I want Christians that fear science to understand they don't have to fear science. They have to realize that basically scientists make mistakes, and I interpret the difference is caused by misinterpretation of the Bible. Secondly, misinterpretation of science. And thirdly, misinterpretation of the Bible and science. And when they do all of that, of course, they don't get the right conclusion. And people need to realize that science is their ally, not their enemy.
I like that. That is really, really good. What's next for you and you as an author? Because we know this is book number 2.
This is book number 2. I'm starting to put together some thoughts for a sequel to this book, God's Existence, Truth or Fiction, The Answer Revealed. And I'm not in a hurry to do it. I'm not going to rush it through. I'm trying to do some research. I'm trying to, think about it. And so if I take another year to do it, so be it. Whatever God's will is, that's the way it'll be. And in the meantime, I want to promote the 2 books I did write.
Yes.
So that's what I want to do.
Well, we're excited. We want to say congratulations to you, because naturally you're going to be in the Souls Right House magazine is coming back out for our winter edition. So both of your books will be in our magazine. So we can't wait to get copies to you authors. And actually, you're going to be our spotlight author for December. I wanted to tell you at the end, but you will be our spotlight author. So congratulations to you. We can't wait to get to you. And now, where can we find these wonderful books?
Well, you can find these books in all the main bookstores, Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, or you can go to my website, Gary R. Lindberg. That's GaryRLindberg.com.
Okay.
And you can find these books and you can order them from the bookstores of your choice, either Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or your local bookstore. And because I've got buttons that click to all those places, and so you can do that. And so I invite you to check out the website and see some of the pictures and some of the various things I offer on the website. I think you'll find it very interesting.
You got it. Well, you guys, this has been a wonderful edition again here at the Souls Right House. And we hope you had fun listening and learning, because God's existence is very important. Mr. Gary, we also want to say that in sometime in December, we want to get with you. We're going to go, we have a Facebook group called the Souls Right House Grief Podcast, and where we come into a private room and we have certain discussions. And when we introduce the winter magazine that comes out in December, we're going to get with you on a Sunday or a Saturday that you will be free to actually come into the room, and we're going to dissect this book a little bit. We're going to ask everybody to get a copy of the book. We're going to give everybody enough time to get a copy of the book, but then we're going to sit down with you and have a day that we can come into the space and you can kind of dissect this book a little bit with our private readers and those that have the book. And I think that's going to be really great. That's one of the things we're moving into 2023 is after we interview our authors, we're going to give everybody a month to get your book, but then we're going to bring you into our room, and everybody that has the book gets to come into the room. And I think that's going to be really exciting, because then it'll be a private talk discussion with people that really want to know about the book and actually meet the author. So I think it's going to be really special. So we just want to thank you for taking the time to come back again, and congratulations on being our author spotlight for our winter edition in December.
Well, thank you so much for that honor. I'm so delighted to hear that, and I appreciate that. And I thank you so much for the time you've taken to talk with me. It's been a pleasure again, as it was the first time. And you're a delight to be with, and I just really am very happy that we had this opportunity.
You got it. And once again, as I told you, 2023, we're going to make a trip up there. You're in New York, correct?
No, I'm in California, San Francisco.
Oh my goodness. So see, we're going to have to make a trip down there in California, and it ain't going to be virtual. I'm coming. I'm getting on plane. I'm coming, but we're going to get with you. And I'm looking at sometime around April. I want to come to California and bring this experience there, a nice Root of My Pain encounters. I'm going to bring this experience down there to where you are in California, because it's about time for me to get some California sun. It's about that time.
Why not?
Thank you so much, Mr. Gary. And if you need anything from the Souls Right House, just know that we're there for you.
Sherry Levon, thank you. It's such a pleasure to be with you.
You got it. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody. Enjoy Song Messages from God by Sherry Levon Music. God
So far, got up today, and the
y'all. Sherry Levine music in the house. Hey.
When you walk out the door this time, make sure you got everything, 'cause you won't be coming back around these parts no more. I'm sure that, oh, I'm saying this to you. Make sure you pack everything that you have this time, 'cause it's over. Yeah, it's over. Goodbye.
Hey, everybody.
I tell you I'm feeling like everything has been alright. I prayed for you. Don't you know I want you to pray with me, fall in love. Don't you know I want you and me? Oh yeah. Don't you know I want.
Hey, what's going on, Tia Myra? Up right, Saginaw, Michigan. Hey, y'all, Michigan in the house.
Singing on people lying. She's got.
How many y'all got some people like that? Think they all that?
Other people and putting them down. Oh, 'cause she's got that, and she acts like that. Oh, picking on people and putting them down. 'Cause she thinks she's all that.
Hey!
Oh, but she's got that.
Guess what?
Oh, picking on people and putting them down.
Y'all join.
You could be with anybody that you want, but you won't be. Oh, baby, I know God said.
How many of y'all know your king is coming?
I love his loyalty to me.
Hey!
All that loyalty to me.
Guess what?
I love the way you walk and how you go after the thing you want, and it happens to be me. Oh, Jesus, running after me.
Blessings, y'all.
'Cause I know your loyalty to me.
Hey!
I love your loyalty to me.
How many y'all got some loyal people in your life? I do.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times he's forgiven me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 grace all over me. God has forgiven me over and over again. Nobody knows my mistakes but my only
Y'all help me
friend.
say this.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times he's forgiven me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 grace all over me. Alright, I messed up so many times, but it's forgiven